Join me as we talk all things true crime.
Made contact and shattered.
The missing 4-year-old. The parents have called in and that the mother has went for a wall, came home, now they can't find her.
Chad, where are Lori's kids? They've been missing for 4 months. You have nothing to say?
4 were stabbed multiple times and were likely asleep during the attack. Some had defensive wounds.
Most of them had just like one that was the lethal stab wound.
Oh, what a tangled web we weave. Once I told a lie, and I told my family, I had to keep lying.
What's your name? Is it Dean?
We haven't cleared anybody.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Sorry, I was a little bit late. Moderators, please let me know if you can hear me well. Usually I have my moderator, Johnny, in chat. He was missing last night from our live stream, which was very much not like him. I messaged him on Facebook, still have not heard back from him. So I don't know, just keep your eyes out for Johnny Kramer. Usually he's, online or something, but he hasn't even been on his Facebook, it says. So just wondering where he is and hope he's okay. All right. Thank you, Sherry, for letting me know you can hear me. Hi, Bubba. Hi, Tony. Hi, Mike. Planet Jace. Dustin's here. Pointer Lover. Thank you guys all for being here. We have some stuff to get into. Let's start off with the fact that last time we spoke was last week on this case, and we were in hopes that we would get some sort of update by now. We have not. 100 days since Sebastian Rogers went missing, still no leads. The 15-year-old autistic boy is believed to have walked off in the middle of the night, according to his mother and stepfather, Katie and Chris Proudfoot. He was reported missing February 26, prompting the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation to issue an Amber Alert. More than 3 months later, there's been no trace of the boy. Sebastian's father, Seth Rogers, has made public calls for the FBI to take over the case and to investigate it as a criminal matter. He has also hired 2 private investigators to help find his boy. Sumner County Sheriff Deputy Eric Craddock has said previously there has been no evidence of foul play, but that nothing is ruled out. Keep that in mind. Nothing is ruled out. So that means foul play is still on the table, even though there's no evidence of it. Unfortunately, that's the end of that article. I'm also hearing through the grapevine that Seth Rogers has stated that he will not do any more interviews unless he is paid for them. So please let me know if that is true. I try not to follow the drama too closely, but of course I do see it as I skim through and try to find updates. Hello, everyone joining. Zoe, Mama Bear. Good to see you all. Have you guys heard that about Seth? I also heard he is sending out cease and desist letters for people who are speaking about his son's case. I don't know what's really going on. This was from our live stream last week about the 3-month mark. There was another reiteration that I just wanted to play. So give me 1 second to play it.
At this point, Sumner County investigators say they found no evidence to suggest foul play or rule it out.
So I feel like I have to reiterate no evidence to suggest foul play, but they can't rule that out because it just, tonight we're going through the rest of that interview with Steve, who is the statement analysis expert. He works for law enforcement. He teaches law enforcement. He's had, a very long career doing his job the way that he does. And his insight is very valuable. And if he's getting a little bit of red flags regarding the interviews with Chris Proudfoot and Katie Proudfoot, then I believe that some of our gut instincts, hi, Adrienne, about, the way that they say statements and stuff could be spot on. Again, nothing is ruled out. Everything is on the table. They are stating that the parents are being cooperative, but They also said that about Jennifer Soto. And yes, she hasn't been charged with anything criminally, but we end up finding out through her interview that she was allowing her daughter to sleep with Stephen Stearns in the same bed. So again, you can be cooperative and you can still be involved in a crime. Just because the parents are cooperative doesn't rule them out. Now, again, there is no evidence of foul play here. So this is very much a mystery. I think that's what a lot of people are grabbing onto this case for, because we just want answers. We're not understanding it. Chris and Katie have both made statements that he walked out the door without shoes on. It just doesn't make sense. So just a lot of red flags. Can we please hit the like button, spread the story out into the algorithm? It helps out a lot. And there was something else I wanted to share with you guys as well. I've been talking about it for weeks. Finally was able to pinpoint where I heard it. This is on a channel called Duchess, I believe. Yes. She interviewed, this was done 3 months ago. She interviewed Chris and Katie Proudfoot first on YouTube. And I kept saying that I know that Katie has changed her story very slightly. A lot of it's the same. But this was the interview that I was trying to explain to you guys, where she says around 10 o'clock, she was dozing a little bit on the couch and woke up from a small nap. I just feel like this, for some reason, I checked in the Chronicles of Olivia interview and I checked in the interview with Nancy Grace. Her little falling asleep on the couch story kind of just disappeared. So let me just play this for you. You guys let me know what you think. It's even more strange because she apparently says it was around 10 o'clock, which is the time that this thud takes place. So I'm confused why there's a Mama Bear says yes, in some interviews there's a thud, in others there's not as well. Yeah, there's things that stay consistent, like, oh, he told me he loved me and that he loved the puppies and he went to bed when I asked. Certain things stay completely consistent, but then there's other things that I like listen to her interviews and I'm like, wait, why isn't she saying this, or why did she leave that out? So let's just listen to this. Again, this was one of the first interviews ever done on YouTube 3 months ago. Just wondering why. Yeah, she napped, read her school book, and talked on the phone. And then once she gets to Chronicles of Olivia and Nancy Grace and these other interviews, this nap kind of just gets shoved aside and the thud is put in at the 10 o'clock slot instead. Just kind of odd, in my opinion.
Tell me what happened the day that Sebastian went missing. I know that his mom said that he was having a good day. He had had a great weekend. So do you want to walk us through what that looks like again for everybody?
He did have a really good weekend, actually. When we come home from having supper that evening, he was playing. When he went to bed, when I told him to go to bed, he said, "I love you, Mama," and he said, "I love you, puppies." A little later in the evening, I myself went to bed, and when I went to wake him up for school, he wasn't here.
So in this first interview, she skips right to dinner, doesn't talk about the BJ's trip, doesn't talk about picking up the niece, doesn't talk about, even their time at dinner. She says, when we got home from dinner, he went to bed when I asked. She doesn't talk about him taking the trash out. She does say he told me he loved me and he told the puppies, "I love you." And then, I went to bed. And then when I went to wake him up, it's just very vague, very skipped through. Yes, Pointer Lover, I saw that. And then that was like earlier in the day because it was a coffee chat. And then he just went silent, like on Facebook I seen, and he wasn't in my live stream. Or usually he does a coffee live stream daily. He didn't do one today. So I'm just kind of worried.
And you did tell me that Sebastian is not a runner.
He's not.
It's okay. Take your time.
Sebastian does not have a history of running. I mean, the young man doesn't go outside very much. I mean, everybody in the neighborhood knows him. He is very to himself, so to speak. Between the hours of 12 and 6, he has basically vanished.
I also find it interesting that Chris is saying between the hours of 12 and 6. Now, Katie has admittedly said that she never checked on him after that thud. She says that he responds to her when she says, "Did you fall out of the bed?" But how would they know that it was between midnight and 6 if Katie never went and checked on him?
Out of the house, the door was locked and gone.
He didn't take the phone. None of his shoes are missing.
Now, you told me that night that, now, Chris, you were at work. You were out of town at work, so you were not even home.
Correct, ma'am.
And Mom, you fell asleep on the couch about 10 o'clock, but you.
Okay, so then Duchess chimes in, and her and Katie spoke before they went on the live stream. Because before I played, before this spot, she talks about like thanking her, like, "Thank you so much. We had a great conversation earlier, blah, blah, blah." And then Duchess just said, "Now, earlier you told me you fell asleep on the couch and then you woke up around 10 o'clock. Now, this whole falling asleep on the couch is never, ever repeated." So again, this is just something I've kind of pointed out to people, inconsistencies. She never mentions this nap ever again.
Correct, ma'am.
And Mom, you fell asleep on the couch about 10 o'clock, but you said that Sebastian went to bed at 9 p.m. And then you got up off the couch and you went to bed, and you said that was around midnight. And nothing was unusual at that point. Everything seemed okay.
So nothing was unusual at that point. Everything seemed okay. This thud is never mentioned. So her first YouTube channel that they go on, she doesn't mention the thud that took place at 10 o'clock. Instead, she says she fell asleep on the couch, woke up at 10, and then later went to bed at midnight. So I'm very confused, why that has kind of changed in her other stories. And then after this, Chris gets into like, "Well, I want to make it clear we were on the phone, blah, blah, blah." And it's like, okay, yeah, we get it. You were on this phone call for 3 hours. We get it. And he wants to make it clear that like they were on that phone call. Yeah, if I heard a thud, I would check immediately. Right. And I'm just confused why this isn't even mentioned at all at that point, because the thud happens at 10 o'clock when she's interviewed by Nancy Grace and other people. So why all of a sudden, was that kind of thrown in there around the 10 o'clock slot? Whereas in this interview, the 10 o'clock slot is her waking up from a nap on the couch. So it's just kind of confusing. And then, like I said, Chris wants to chime in and make sure everyone knows that they were on the phone. Did she fall asleep? Was she talking on the phone to Chris, or was she sleeping, reading, studying when she heard the thud? Which is it? Right, exactly. And I'll play it, but Chris kind of chimes in and starts saying like, "Well, we were on the phone, blah, 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 and she was getting sleepy. So I told her, to go to bed, put the dogs away and go to bed." But like, that's at midnight. So why did she tell Duchess that, she fell asleep on the couch, woke up at 10 p.m.? It's just kind of weird. To me, it's like everything's all over the place when it comes to their story. And then it's consistent after this point, the thud, etc. But for some reason, this whole nap incident, waking up at 10 on the couch, just kind of changed to studying, etc. So I'm very confused.
It's actually a piece of, so to make something very crystal clear, so that way there's transparency across the board. Me and the mom were on the phone at 9:43 or 9:46 in the evening. We stayed on the phone for quite some time. The call logs have been verified by all the police departments.
So they're on the phone at 9:46 in the evening, and he wants to make it known that, Those phone logs have been verified. Okay, like why would we question that you were on the phone together? Just kind of weird how he has to like reiterate, like, it's been verified by law enforcement. Like, okay. It's kind of like when he said, and we've been fully cooperative. And Steve Johnson, who we're going to listen to in a minute, was like, why does he have to let us know that? Like, that should go without saying. So here it's kind of like the same vibe for me. Like, how are they on the phone when she's telling Duchess that she had fallen asleep and then woke up at 10? Like, what's going on? And why is she in and out of sleep on a 3-hour phone call with Chris? And why does he finally tell her to put the dogs to bed? And that's around midnight. So what happened? To me, it leads me to think something happened to Sebastian around 10 o'clock.
TBI included. We stayed on the phone. It was very lengthy. Mom did slightly start falling asleep while she was on the couch. I had said, hey, you need to wake up, put the dogs up, go to bed.
So mom starts to fall asleep while she's on the couch. Okay. That's at midnight. She told Duchess she was falling asleep and woke up on the couch at 10. He's saying he's on the phone with her at 9:46. And then later says, she starts falling asleep when we're on this lengthy phone call, which has been verified. And I told her to put the dogs up and go to bed. That's midnight. So there's a whole bunch of time being filled in with this phone call. Yeah, phone was his alibi. Do you guys see what I'm saying? Something is just very fishy about 10 o'clock to midnight. And what do you know? Chris is emphasizing in more than one interview, between midnight and 6 a.m. is something happened. How come it can't be any other time? When that thud took place, etc. Something's not making sense. Is she tired or was she drinking? Right. So again, I just kind of wanted to point that out. I'm not going to play this whole interview. You guys can go check it out. This is the title at the top. Name of the channel is Duchess. Very confused, like where this whole, like, I woke up. Let's play it one more time without me stopping. So you guys can hear Duchess talk about like, okay, well, mom, you told me that you fell asleep on the couch and woke up around 10. And then he's like, we were on the phone. Mom starts falling asleep. I told her to put the dogs up. And she goes to bed at midnight.
Running.
Again, for everybody.
He did have a really good weekend, actually. When we come home from having supper that evening, he was playing. When he went to bed, when I told him to go to bed, he said, I love you, mama. And he said, I love you, puppies. A little later in the evening, I myself went to bed. And when I went to wake him up for school, he wasn't here.
And you did tell me that Sebastian is not a runner.
He's not.
It's okay. Take your time.
Sebastian does not have a history of running. The young man doesn't go outside very much. Everybody in the neighborhood knows him. He is very to himself, so to speak. Between the hours of 12 and 6, he has basically vanished. Walked out of the house, the door was locked, and gone.
He didn't take a phone. None of his shoes are missing.
Now, you told me that night that, now, Chris, you were at work. You were out of town at work,
Yes,
so you were not even home.
Correct, ma'am.
And Mom, you fell asleep on the couch about 10 o'clock, but you said that Sebastian went to bed at 9 p.m. And then you got up off the couch and you went to bed, and you said that was around midnight. And nothing was unusual at that point. Everything seemed okay.
There's actually a piece of, so to make something very crystal clear, so that way there's transparency across the board. Me and the mom were on the phone at 9:43 or 9:46 in the evening. We stayed on the phone for quite some time. The call logs have been verified by all the police departments, TBI included. We stayed on the phone. It was very lengthy. Mom did slightly start falling asleep while she was on the couch. I had said, hey, you need to wake up, put the dogs up, go to bed. Now, mind you, that was right around midnight, just before midnight or right around midnight.
Mhm.
So then mom does go to bed and wakes up early in the morning to go wake her son up, get him ready for school. And now we have a worried mom who can't find her son in the house. Mom made an effort to look and search several times.
All right. So again, I just wanted to point that out. She told Duchess she starts falling asleep, woke up on the couch at 9:46. Chris buds in, says we started our phone call around 9:43, 9:46. She starts falling asleep, and I tell her to put the dogs away, and that was around midnight. So it's just there's seems to be some sort of time gap, and they're thinking that this whole phone call is going to fill in and make up for something. And then, of course, he wants to reiterate when something happened to Sebastian, it had to have been midnight to 6 a.m. So I don't know. Just wanted to point that out because so many people have said their stories haven't changed, blah, blah, blah. Like to me, I see slight changes. Yes, he's triggering. He wants to be in charge vibes. Right. I agree. And hello, Bella. So let's continue where we left off here. And yeah, we'll just continue this whole, we did part 1 on our last week's Sebastian live stream. Again, this is expert opinions. So that's why I really wanted to source this. We're not getting new information from TBI or from the sheriff's department that's in charge of the case. FBI is not taking over no matter what. Seth, the father, is kind of begging for them to do. So we're just going to listen to an expert opinion on this interview.
Situation. He shouldn't be having to portray himself in a good light. Mom shouldn't have to be portraying herself as a good mom. You see, we're seeing a pattern here, and I think it's going to continue on.
$100 says you clip this and into your classes.
I'm not going to take that bet because.
All right, hang on. Here we go.
Still just don't have any answers.
Did he have any friends that could have possibly contacted him in some way on his phone?
All his friends at school have been questioned to my knowledge, and none of them knew anything.
So this big question mark is vanished.
Yes, ma'am.
No one can figure out where or why. All right, so let's talk about the relationship involved, because the biological father is very much involved in Sebastian's life as well.
Yes, ma'am. Very much.
Right? And how would you describe that relationship, the two of them, and the four of you?
It's relatively good. I mean, we talk regularly. He talks to his son on a regular basis, sees him on a regular basis. He's involved in school and therapy. And I mean, he didn't have any extracurricular activities, but I can tell you now, if he did, his dad would be in the front row.
In 2 different households, and the communication between the 3 of us is great. I mean, yes, we're just like every parent. We all have our disagreements, but in the end, we come together as a team and we work and we come up with solutions that as we best see fit. I mean, I'm almost in contact with him almost daily.
Almost.
Is he talking?
All right. So first off, Sherry, thank you so much for gifting 10 memberships and welcome to those new members. And yeah, Brie and Biogore, I hope everything's going okay. I've seen some comments in chat. Yeah, I don't understand these two packing up and leaving in the RV either. That was another red flag. Yes, the statement did not age well. Yeah, they're very much in support of Seth at this point. And then as we all know, the drama occurs and all that changed.
Talking about biological dad or
Yeah.
Sebastian?
He's
Biological
talking
dad.
about the father.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting description there because he's letting her talk, which is good, right? Because, you know, her ex, yet, you know, he kind of colors in, you know, number 5 on the painting, you know, with blue.
Right.
Everything's great. use, paint number 5. Everything's perfect. But, later on, it just unravels. I mean, the two are ready to strangle one another.
Well, and again, this is a continuation of him portraying himself as a good guy. I communicate with him almost daily. It's more of that portrayal, and I get it. I'm going to give him a break, because I want to hear about good relationship.
Yes, and that's interesting, Letitia. Planet Jace, you're basically saying what Seth, but what Steve is saying at this moment too. Every time they talk, they need to make sure to tell everyone that everything they do is awesome and fine, and no one should have any concerns. Like his relationship with Seth, like, oh, we talk almost daily, blah blah blah, and everything just sounds so kosher. Everything sounds very, oh wow, it sounds like they got it all together, even though they're co-parenting, etc., in different households. And then, as we've seen after this interview, the cracks start showing, and Seth starts, bashing them and what they've done to Seth or to Sebastian, etc. So, just very interesting that this is the portrayal that they first wanted to come out, and then we start seeing the cracks and everything. And hi, Jess. Good to see you. Kimberly, everyone else who's joined.
But it needs to still be contextual, and still, I want to hear more things. But most of what I'm hearing is CP kind of like rehabbing himself, if you will, for whatever reason. Maybe he's been lambasted a little bit in the media up to this point. I don't know, but he has a need to portray himself as a good guy, which is, again, troubling. You shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah, the whole clarity of focus, to your point, should be on Sebastian. I mean, what the heck is going on here? There's not this, 8 days later, it's almost as if it's like, okay. I mean, 8 days later, and when I've in our situation, and I only speak from personal experience of, I can't believe this. This can't be happening.
Right.
It's like this fog of life, and here it's like, yeah, all of his friends have been interviewed, nothing. We turned over, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I love the soggy bread. I'm not buying any soggy bread right now.
Right.
I think we have a soggy bread emoji too, everybody.
Let's talk about Sebastian.
And she keeps feeding them a narrative.
Yeah.
Reporter.
I don't know if she's doing it because she's sensing that she's not getting the right information, or if she's doing it to try to save the interview. I don't know. I would love to talk to her about that, but she's definitely feeding them, and she's adding a level of contamination to their answers. But yet, even with that contamination, we're still getting some great information as far as finding out what's going on inside their brain, what's up there. But yeah, a good interviewer should not be feeding something that law enforcement should never do. I get it a little bit more when it's media and they have to keep things going, make the show, the interview a little sexy, if you will, appealing. And so she's trying to save it, I think. But I get the sense that she's not hearing what she wants to hear from parents of an autistic child that's missing.
So Ava says that she lives in the neighborhood. I don't have a confirmation on that, but I believe you, Ava, if that's what you say. That would be also interesting. But here's the good news: is they were interviewed by the police long before the reporter. So hopefully they're taking notes.
Yeah, for sure.
About Sebastian, how would you describe him?
Sweet, stubborn. He loves to help. He loves running, and he loves to play his games and his fidgets and Uno. Lord, that's one of his favorite games right now. Favorite color is green.
Does he love music?
Oh, God, he loves music.
An eclectic taste. An eclectic. I mean, from, as everybody knows, Eye of the Tiger to Eddie Vedder.
Oh yeah.
So we got Pearl Jam on one hand, we've got Survivor on the other over here, we've got Taylor Swift, and
He's got a big crush on her. Country, rock.
No hip hop.
classic.
We don't allow the hip hop.
Well, he doesn't really
Well,
get
I say
into it
rap and
anyways.
things.
You mentioned he loved running. So did he love the outdoors at all? I mean, would something outside that was somewhat outdoorsy be enticing to
So-
him or pull him outdoors?
He loves, like, when we were in California and the school had this lap thing to gain money. It was a fundraiser, and every year I did this many laps. I did this many laps. I mean, I've got T-shirts where they would write on his back every time the kids went around. They'd mark a mark on the back, and they'd keep running. And he just had marks all the way across his back. He likes playgrounds. He hates being dirty. He don't like being dirty.
Yeah, he's not your tomboy style child where he goes outside and plays in the mud.
He loves animals, but he's terrified of bugs.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
even a fly, and he's like, oh!
Let's talk too, because he's highly functioning. I know you all have described him as having a form of autism,
He does.
but just describe that to our viewers too, as far as his way of thinking of things and maybe how determined he was about certain things or his mindset.
He's got a stubborn mindset. If he believes it's this,
He gets on a one-man track, and he is just on it, and he is all about it.
but I mean, he's very smart.
He's
I mean,
smart.
he can play chess. He can beat adults in chess. So
Wow.
He loves playing games.
What about navigation? Like, did he have a sense of direction? Do you think he could have possibly even hitched a ride or gotten a ride on a bus or some sort of transportation?
that is a speculation that we don't have an answer for. Just directionally, he knows he could guide you from our house to his dad's house.
Yeah.
He could get from like this house. I think he can make it up to Culver's ice cream.
He can go to Culver's.
Oh, boy, loves
He
them
knows
all.
where Culver's is because Culver's.
And isn't it interesting how both of them admit that, like, yes, you know, he could get from our house to his father's house. And they're both in agreement of that. Like, yes. And yet, when the 911 call happens, or sorry, when they called the sheriff, when everything goes down, Seth isn't somebody that they called right away. Even though they're openly admitting that, you know, he could get to his father's house if he needed to. So I just find it interesting that, like, they're admitting that, but then their actions didn't really show that they thought that that was a possibility by not calling Seth right away.
Culver's has malt. He loves malt, extra malt. Every time, extra malt.
Now, how far away does his dad live?
Clarksville. His dad lives up by Clarksville.
So he could guide someone all the way to Clarksville.
Mhm.
Oh, wow. Okay. So a pretty keen sense of direction, at least with certain things.
So yeah, keen sense of direction when it comes to getting to the father's house, but they don't call the father right away.
Familiar routes.
Yes.
Familiar routes.
Familiar
I
routes.
mean, if I took him another route going
He
this way, he
takes
would
it.
not know it.
He goes up there so often that he knows how to get to his daddy's. We know that.
His dad works with him as far as, oh, we're going this way, we're going that way, and keeps the same thing, and it works out. So
Let's talk to, because earlier, Chris, you and I were talking, and you were saying that there are a lot of people who are harassing both of you. What, if any of that, do you want to address? What do you want to say to any of these people?
Just that you don't know. And I don't wish you to ever know.
I would say it like this: everybody has an opinion, you know, and it's perfectly okay to have that opinion, but you're not in the situation. You don't quite understand. I wish people would step back, take a different wide open view, and not assume what they know. It's just better to stick to the facts. If they have questions, all they have to do is ask.
And I pray genuinely that no one ever goes through this.
Hey, Chris, that's, I don't know, the fourth or fifth time I think that she said, you know, something effective. I hope or pray that nobody ever has to go through this. And again, we've kind of talked about this before, but it is focus on herself and not Sebastian and what he's going through. So it's just, that's kind of like, because she keeps repeating it, it's, to me, that is what she has in her head is what is the soggy bread that people are going to buy, the reporter's going to buy. It's going to sell her emotion. And so she keeps repeating it, but it's void of what Sebastian is experiencing. I still haven't heard that. I've heard some things that that he liked, and his music and all the things that he liked, likes, and but not what they're feeling about him at this current time and what he's experiencing at this current time. Still haven't heard any of that, and that's exactly what we should be hearing from de facto innocent parents.
But they sure made sure to make their statement known of those who are harassing them, like, oh, you guys just don't know, you don't know anything. They want to make sure that they're seen as, victims, and, they need sympathy and empathy. But yet they haven't said, like Steve said, anything about, like, we're worried what Sebastian is going through at this moment. It's just very much lacking in that area.
Well, and I agree with you 1,000%, because what they're doing is they're buying empathy from the story.
Yeah.
To the community. It's like, I mean, how many times have we had that guy walk in, with a buddy and say, Hank, wait here, I'm going to go talk to the detectives. And then in the middle of the interview, Hank says, or the interviewee turns and says, well, if you don't believe me, go ask Hank. He's in the living room. And so what he's doing, and just my opinion at this point, she's buying empathy to everybody watching this story to say, you see, there's nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. Move along. Everything is cool. But to your point, what she's not doing is, my son left the house without his shoes. He's on the scale, the spectrum. He has autism. I'm just afraid. I'm scared what he may be experiencing. I don't know how to deal with this, and that is the emotion that you get when it's more in line with, the car on the right side of the road and there's no line for the collision.
Yes, Bubba, I could see that. It's almost as if CP and KP are more worried about public perception than worrying about Sebastian. Right. And that almost goes along with them leaving the house, and everyone's like, why did they leave? And they left in their RV. And then other people were like, well, you would leave too if you were being harassed like them. It's like, but their kid is missing. It shouldn't be about them. Hi, Looking Beyond. Good to see you. So yeah, it's very odd. And then of course, Seth telling people he's not going to do interviews unless he gets paid for them. How are we supposed to keep Sebastian's name out there? Because not everyone has money to pay for interviews.
For sure. Good way to put it. Again, and once again, very similar to what we heard in the Summer Wells case.
Almost verbatim. I mean, it's kind of scary, to be honest with you. I know this is going to sound crazy, and I'm sure the trolls will take it. I'm wondering if they watched some of that.
I was thinking that earlier. I was wondering that same thing. I just didn't say it, but I wanted the same thing. You would think if they watched some of that they would have learned how not to do things. But human nature is a funny thing, and that even people that, well, let's say, I'll mention this once in a while in my classes, that I'm teaching you about detecting deception and other information in the language. And even those that learn how to detect deception, they can't stop it in themselves. So even someone that's trained, they go out and commit a crime, they some kind of infraction or whatever, and then they're questioned about it, because that human nature is so it's so strong in the way the brain works, that the same thing is going to come out of their mouth. They're going to give away all the same clues of deception. They're going to say all the same things that, and those as the people that they've been studying how to detect deception, you can't stop it. It's just the way that the brain works. And so here we go. Even if they have studied it, they can't change it. They can't change the narrative. They don't know how to. Yeah. And very few do. And it's very difficult to actually change the story enough to make it believable. They can't do it.
Oh, here's an interesting comment. In their very last YouTube interview, they mentioned Summer many times.
Oh, well, no kidding.
Wouldn't that be interesting, right?
Wow.
I wonder what the context is. Is it, and they went through it too? Let's see here. Katie elbows Chris when he's talking about bio father. Yeah, interesting.
Huh.
We all love Sebastian. Thank you. Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's keep moving here.
Let's go.
Just be kind to people. I mean, that's real simple.
There are some people who have been talking, because I know this is part of the harassment. Is there any?
Chris demanding that people be kind to people. That really wouldn't even be on my radar of thinking at that point. Like, people could harass me all I wanted if I knew I was innocent. I'm more focused on getting my son back. That's my opinion. So Letitia says they really weren't on true crime radar quite yet when they claimed harassment and death threats being the reason they left their home. I agree. That was very early on, before things really turned into a circus. And yet people were like, oh, well, I understand. It's like, how do you understand that? If he walked out the front door like they're claiming, he might come back to the front door and you're not there. Just very, very strange.
Anything you want to address about this child custody situation with the previous?
So I have a current case that is ongoing in another state. We've requested that case to be sealed because there are some individuals who have taken upon themselves to put stuff out there that they don't quite know, which all they have to do is ask, I'll tell you. But because of that, it has nothing to do with our son. It has nothing to do with the situation. I just, people would respect that and then keep an open mind. It's totally different.
If Sebastian is able to watch this, and maybe he's watching this as it airs, and if he is, what do you want to say to Sebastian? What do you want him to hear from you right now?
Oh gosh, that we love you so much.
I look at the way he's looking down and to the left. And this comes after the heels of that conversation. It's almost like bleed over stress, on the CVSA, right? Mm-hmm. Where he had just talked about the custody problem from another situation, and now she's going to talk about, that one of the things I think we'll tell the audience, when you do a CVSA, it's computer voice stress analysis. It comes out looking like a block or like a Christmas tree. And on the second question, which would be an honest answer, is your name Chris McDonough? If you're still thinking about the other question that was just stressful, it'll also come out like a block. So we call that bleed over. And I think he's kind of like, I didn't like that question now that it's out there. And she's going to pick up on Sebastian here.
Yeah. Chris, hold on though. There's something very important though.
Yeah, I missed it.
This is biological mom, and reporter just asked, what do you want to say to Sebastian? What do you want him to hear if he watches this? Now, remember when I referred back to what my wife would say if something happened and she would say, my daughter is missing, my granddaughter is missing, my grandson, it would be she would take ownership. Well, listen to what she said. She didn't say to Sebastian, I love you. She included CP. She said, we love you. And what this is it's something that I don't expect to hear from biological mom. I want bio mom to say, honey, I love you, and come back and loving mom. And he's going to come home to loving mom. But she is aligning herself with CP, with her husband. He's the stepdad. And I'm not quite sure why she's doing that. But for whatever reason, she needs to associate herself with him. And it takes me all the way back to the phone call in the morning, right away, called my husband. And the night before, when she skipped over time, she goes, and a little while later, I wound up going to bed. Well, in that time, she had a 3-hour phone call with CP. She's on the phone with him a lot during this situation, instead of finding Sebastian. And here again, I don't know exactly why she's aligning with him, other than if what I'm hearing in her language is correct, that she has, there's that disconnect, which indicates, but it does indicate some kind of guilty knowledge on her part. She doesn't want to be in this alone. Just like she's grabbing him, like linguistically, psychologically, she's grabbing him like, we're in this together. We love you. She's using that we, and it's a very strong pronoun. She's unifying herself with him at that point in time.
Interesting. I'm going to go back just for a second and play that through. I missed that completely, but you're spot on this. It's interesting.
Totally different.
If Sebastian is able to watch this, and maybe he's watching this as it airs, and if he is, what do you want to say to Sebastian? What do you want him to hear from you right now?
Oh gosh, that we love you so much and we want you to come home and you're not in trouble.
I guarantee you he is loved. And trust me, the open arms are waiting for him to come home. From every parent to every family members to probably everyone in the community.
I always get sketched out when people say, trust me. I don't know. Not really trusting Chris when he says there's open arms waiting for him. What do you guys think?
And the night before, when she skipped over time, she goes, and a little while later, I wound up going to bed. Well, in that time, she had a 3-hour phone call with CP.
Stressful.
It would be she would take ownership. Well, bio mom to say, honey, I love you, and come back and loving mom, and he's going to come home to loving mom. But she is aligning herself with CP, with her husband. He's the stepdad. And I'm not quite sure why she's doing that, but for whatever reason, she needs to associate herself with him. And it takes me all the way back to the phone call in the morning, right away, called my husband. And the night before, when she skipped over time, she goes, and a little while later, I wound up going to bed. Well, in that time, she had a 3-hour phone call with CP. She's on the phone with him a lot during this situation instead of finding Sebastian. And here again, I don't know exactly why she's aligning with him, other than if what I'm hearing in her language is correct, that she has, there's that disconnect, which indicates, not kind of, but it does indicate some kind of guilty knowledge on her part. She doesn't want to be in this alone. Just like she's grabbing him, like linguistically, psychologically, she's grabbing him like, we're in this together. We love you. She's using that we, and it's a very strong pronoun. She's unifying herself with him at that point in time.
Interesting. I'm going to go back just for a second and play that through. I missed that completely, but you're spot on this. It's interesting.
Totally different.
If Sebastian is able to watch this, and maybe he's watching this as it airs, and if he is, what do you want to say to Sebastian? What do you want him to hear from you right now?
Oh gosh, that we love you so much and we want you to come home and you're not in trouble.
I guarantee you he is loved. And trust me, the open arms are waiting for him to come home. From every parent to every family members to probably everyone in the community. But there's no malice, that we just want our boy home.
So somehow we missed the we thing again, but what he just said there, it struck me too, is why does he have to guarantee that he's loved? That's more of that language that's there to convince. It's like, well, of course he's loved. We expect him to be loved. Why do you have to guarantee that he's loved? That's just all that does is it begs the question, is he really not loved? That you now have to go out of your way and exert this energy and the words to convince us that he's loved. To me, it's an indication of something that I would hear from parents that are either abusive or neglectful, or a parent that is abusive or neglectful. It came out of his mouth. So I'm just thinking that, I don't think that he really loves Sebastian. I guarantee that he's loved. For me, it screams out, there's a good chance that he's not loved. And on top of that, everything that came before this, Chris, him portraying himself as the good guy, mom being in self-preservation mode, portraying herself as a good mom. This all is leading towards it's stacking and shaping into the language of parents that are either neglectful or abusive.
Yeah, remember in high school where you'd go, yeah, sure, right? I love that part where this is such a serious question about what do you want if he's listening, and the response is, I love this part. Hang on.
Yeah, it's no sense.
I'm going to go back a little bit more real fast.
have to do is ask. I'll tell you. But because of that, you know, it has nothing to do with our son. It has nothing to do with the situation.
You know, the old, what was the movie where, so there's a chance then with, what's it saying? Dumb and Dumber.
Oh, right. Yeah.
What are the odds if we can go out? Right? 0. So there's a chance.
You know, I just
Right?
always
Shoulder
respect
shrug.
that and keep an open mind. It's totally different.
If Sebastian is able to watch this, and maybe he's watching this as it airs, and if he is, what do you want to say to Sebastian? What do you want him to hear from you right now?
Oh gosh, that we love you so much, and we want you to come home, and you're not in trouble.
I guarantee you, it
Right
is
there.
love. And trust me, the open arms are waiting for him to come home.
Yeah. I
From
miss
every
that.
parent to every family members to probably everyone in the community. But there's no malice. So we just want our boy.
I mean, why such the qualification, Steve? I mean, love, malice, you're not in trouble. I mean, those are 3 negatives
Yeah.
to something he's asked about a positive. What do you want him to hear? Okay. And she gives 3 negatives. You're not in trouble, you know, et cetera, et cetera. What's your take on that? Is that's what you were saying a couple
That's
minutes
exactly what I was saying. And it's more indicative of abuse, abusing Sebastian in some way. And be thinking also in those terms, they brought up, I guess this is the second time now. And I can understand saying, hey, honey, you're not in trouble. We just want you home. I get that. But when you have this in the context with all these other things, it begs a different context. And it's more the language of abuse than it is we love you. We just want you to come home. It's not that. We're not that. If that was the case, we'd hear it throughout in all their language, and we're not hearing it. What we're hearing is no, all these other things that are coming up. And for me, as I'm hearing the context of this, it's like, wait a minute, did he get in trouble? Did he do something he wasn't supposed to do? And there's some kind of malice, and there's was there some kind of abusive situation that went on? Which I could see that would be why Sebastian might run, why they might know, because in their head it's like they know he went out that door. Was he? But I don't know that Sebastian would go out that door on his own. So was there some kind of punishment? Was that part of the conversation the night before when she's on the phone with CP for the 3 hours? And because I know already that it's probably was not the normal day. She doesn't remember those.
I'm really convinced something happened around 10 p.m. around the time of the thud and the time that she claimed to Duchess, the first interview, that she was falling asleep on the couch and woke up at 10. And then, you know, Chris has to reiterate over and over that something happened to him between midnight and 6 a.m. You know, I just don't believe what Chris has to say.
She can't articulate linguistically what happened during that normal day, all those things that you would remember, the last moments. She can't articulate those things. Why? Because she doesn't. They're the things that it's opposite of a loving situation, the opposite of a normal day. Instead, she's trying to convince that it was. And so I'm wondering now, was there some kind of the CP tell her, hey, do this to quell the situation, make him behave? And I don't know. It's just pure speculation on my point, on my part at this point. But that certainly could be a reason for Sebastian leaving. If there was something abusive going on there, and when I say abusive, I mean there's different levels of abuse, and for a child with autism, it might only take a minor incident of abuse that makes him think, hey, I'm not staying here. I'm to be afraid enough that he goes out the door despite. But I don't think in my mind, as I'd say that, I'm like, no, I don't think he would do that because he's afraid of the dark. He doesn't like being dirty. He's going out without his shoes. He's afraid of bugs. That doesn't make sense. So if he went out the door, and I'm pretty certain it happened at night, not in the morning. It was night when she's saying he told me he loved me. That's probably the time that he went out that door. Whether she put him out the door to make him learn a lesson or what, I'm not quite sure. But it's shaping up to be in something like that. That's kind of what the language is saying.
Well, I mean, how many times in patrol would you roll up on a call like this And if it's a runaway, 15-year-old runaway, right? And you get there, and the first thing you hear the parents or the mother say is, we got in a fight last night, and he's gone. I don't know what, did I do something? You know, and you hear this self-loathing guilt and
Yeah.
blame that
Right.
the child left the house, you know. And in this case, you know, that's not what's happening here. She's now reiterating, you know, as a final or a really important statement. She's given the opportunity. What do you want him to hear? And she relays these three negatives. You're, you know, this and that, and you're not in trouble. And it's like, man, I hope TBI, I really hope that she said to TBI in the very beginning, like we just talked about there for a moment, that, you know, hey, at 10 o'clock, I heard a thump. You know, I went to check him at, you know, 6 a.m., yada, yada. And I'm not going to give them any more clues because they're going to adapt to it after this call here or this show here this evening. I know.
Yeah, they will. And that's the norm. And also the other thing too is you mentioned that she heard a thump at 10 p.m. It's interesting because it's very, very common for a guilty mind to incorporate some portion of the crime and to put themselves at the scene, to put themselves on the road, to put themselves to, they heard that, and it's more times than not, it's something that it was spoken or heard, or seen. I'm sorry, seen or heard, and this is she heard something, and I can't tell you how many times that a guilty mind has linguistically then put themselves in the moment of the crime by saying, I heard something or I saw something. So I think that's what's going on there. That 10 o'clock time frame is, I think, going to be pretty key.
You know, I'm
Wow. So Steve thinks the 10 o'clock time frame is key as well. And he doesn't even know about the interview with Duchess where she says that, you know, she woke up around 10 o'clock. So there is something very significant about the 10 o'clock slot. I think it even more now with confirmation from an expert like Steve. You guys let me know what you think too.
I'm leaning more towards, you know, I'm not going to give an opinion yet, but I'm leaning more towards the mom than the stepdad here for a moment. Not that I'm saying, you know, not that they couldn't have done, I think she could have done something independent of him at this point. And if I was investigating this case, my opinion would be at this point, I'm going to really focus on mom for a minute here.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, maybe he gets the phone call. Maybe he did get a phone call, just kind of like, you know, the other situation. And now they're building up. What's going to be interesting is see the relationship dynamics, because these types of cases like this, unlike Summer's case, and I think you would agree, Steve, a child, you know, of that age, 4 or 5, versus a 15-year-old, because in 3 years, let's push it where Summer's at, and you know, even today, in 3 years, he would be 18. And so that narrative is going to be a lot more difficult to control because he's going to show up somewhere in the environment, social, you know, whatever. Because once he hits 18, the law says you're an adult. So they only have 3 years to play a game if they're going to play a game.
Yeah.
And they need to be thinking about that, because that's going to determine how much pressure is going to be on the two of them for the next 3 years in terms of their relationship. If they split, I'd go right to Chris and say, you know, let's talk. Let's talk.
Yeah, that would be the best thing for this case, actually. But I agree with you that, and I haven't made any, I don't have a firm opinion on this, but I agree that mom should be looked at, but I can't get away from the history of abuse on CP's part.
I agree with Steve. It's hard to look past things that we know about Chris, the ex-wives speaking out, etc., the belt incident with Sebastian. Katie has claimed that she's passed her polygraph. Now, we know that those are not admissible in court. We know that those don't necessarily hold much weight. Some people don't put any weight in them at all. And she admitted herself that her car was searched more than once, which I find very interesting that they would need to search her car more than once, especially with a lot of theories going around that they believe Sebastian, the car was in the garage, Sebastian was put in the car, and then that's how he was taken out. Again, that's just a theory and speculation.
And if there is abuse going on here, very good chance that mom Katie is being abused in some way, even if it's verbal, mind control, codependent on Chris in some way. I mean, how many cases have we seen where a mom or girlfriend or somebody will do something because the spouse or the significant other is making them do it, or they're afraid of what the spouse will do if they don't do this, or they've been given the ultimatum that I'm going to leave you if Sebastian doesn't leave the relationship, if he doesn't find another home, if he stays here, then I'm gone. And that's not uncommon. And so either way, it needs to be focused on mom here, but reasons why could be because of what she's experiencing in her relationship with CP. Just speculation.
Great point. But I'll let Chris watch, with the girlfriend.
Yeah.
The family goes or I go.
Yeah. Susan Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of cases like that.
Yeah. That's a great point. She's coming up for parole, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
That mama's heart, I know it's daddy's too, but I feel like there's always that extra special bond. Can you walk us through what you're thinking right now?
I just want my baby to be okay. I don't know where he's at.
Now, I don't know if I'm seeing this in my mind, but did that reporter sound like she was tearing up, a special bond with mom?
Yeah.
And is that going to be an emotional mirroring, that Katie's going to pick up on here?
Well, it could be. I mean, there's definitely cannot take that off the table, and that certainly is. It kind of depends on Katie's personality. Is she one that tears up easily? Does she, when she feels emotion, does she tear up? I mean, I know people that don't tear up to save their life, never. But yet can be very express emotion, but you don't see it in them. So it could be. It kind of just depends on her personality there. But along those lines and what she just said, interesting that why did she choose the word out of all the things that she could have said at that point in time is, I don't know where he is. I don't know where he is. And she repeated it. I don't know where he is. I have a couple other cases that I often profile in my classes where that same verbiage was used, and one in particular by a fiance, a guy that killed his fiance. She was pregnant with his baby, and he was asked in a press conference, describe your last moments with your fiance, and he paused for a long period of time, and he said, I don't know where she is. Just like it's like the telltale heart, that old Edgar Allan Poe story.
See, very interesting. So is it true that she doesn't know where he is? Or is that sort of coming out, like he said, like telltale heart, for those who don't know that, Edgar Allan Poe, that whole story, guilty conscience starts coming out subliminally. And, is she totally in the dark of where Sebastian is at this moment? Or is her guilt kind of eating away at her? And she does know where he is. Very, very strange. Yes, and your brain leaks.
Telltale heart. It just so much guilt. That's just what comes out, and what's just pressing on their mind. That what they do know, and it comes. I don't know where he is, and it reminded me of that, and with everything else that we've seen in this case, I just wonder, does she know? Does she know what happened to him?
Too, but I feel like there's always that extra special bond. Can you walk us through what you're thinking right now?
I just want my baby to be okay. I don't know where he's at.
Let's talk about the community, because I want you all to know, even my church body, I mean, we're all praying for his safe return quickly. What do you all want to say to the community?
With everything from the bottom of our hearts. I would not have imagined how far this has gotten, but there's no way to repay the gratitude, the love that we've felt from the community, the prayers. But thank you.
But
from the
don't
bottom of
stop
our hearts.
looking.
Yeah, please.
My son is somewhere.
Just ain't over until he's home.
So we have, let's mention, continue the search itself, because we know thousands of miles have basically been traced and retraced. We've got hundreds, we've got volunteers, we've got law enforcement from within the state, from outside of the state. I mean, do you feel like they're doing as much as they can? I mean, you all have been right there in the front seat, seeing everything that's underway.
Yes, Tony.
As far as I know, they're doing everything. Anything and everything has been an option. They have brought in assets and resources from various counties, potentially other states. I mean, I don't know how much more they could do, but we're grateful for everything they have done.
They're amazing, but they still haven't brought my baby back.
They will. They will.
Hey, Chris, I like that. I like what she said, because I was going to stop you earlier and I didn't when she asked, what do you want to say to the community? And she said, thank you. And he said, and CP said something that was kind of like, we can't ever repay you for what you've done. And I like, kind of like it's over. But I was thinking, oh, the community hasn't found him. There's still more to do. I would be saying to the community, man, just keep looking. Just please keep looking. I appreciate everything, everything you've done. But instead, it's like they're thanking him for their support, not for what they've done to look. It's more of, hey, thanks for supporting us with your love and your prayers. And I get that, but I want to hear more. Hey, thank you for looking, and just keep it up. And I know as her second thought, she did come out and she say, oh, and don't stop looking. But what she did say here, I really liked it. She said she wasn't too keen on the police. She says, they still haven't found my baby. I like that. That's the language I want to hear throughout this whole thing. Is like, why haven't they found him? I like that. And then CP's like, did he shrug again? I'm not quite sure, but he says, they will. He's reassuring her. I don't want to be totally negative through this whole thing, because that actually was something I like to hear. So kudos to her.
Okay.
He's out there somewhere. So it's basically, it's one day at a time, getting through this and bringing him home. What is the reaction to the fact that somehow his image hasn't been captured on any video?
I know that it was very dark that night. I mean, it gets dark around here at night in general.
That always has bothered me when she says, I know it was very dark that night. And then she follows it up with, like, well, it gets dark around here in general. It's like, I thought you were falling asleep on the couch. I thought you were reading your book. I thought you were on your phone call with Chris, but somehow that it was very dark that night. I mean, obviously nighttime is dark anyways, but the way that she says it and then tries to like catch herself, like, it gets dark around here in general. I don't know. That's always kind of been, yeah, isn't dark always at night? Yeah, it's dark every night. She was outside with him when it was so dark. Such a suspicious comment. I agree. I mean, it's just kind of has stuck out. And again, during her rocking, and isn't it funny how when she says that, Chris kind of like shoots over at her, he's looking at her right now. It's like, you better pull back the reins on that, or you better come back from that. I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Oh, and don't stop looking. But what she did say here, I really liked it. She said she wasn't too keen on the police. She says, they still haven't found my baby. I like that. That's the language I want to hear throughout this whole thing. Is like, why haven't they found him? I like that. And then CP's like, did he shrug again? I'm not quite sure, but he says, they will. He's reassuring her. I don't want to be totally negative through this whole thing, because that actually was something I like to hear. So kudos to her.
Okay.
He's out there somewhere. So it's basically, it's one day at a time, getting through this and bringing him home. What is the reaction to the fact that somehow his image hasn't been captured on any video anywhere?
I know that it was very dark that night. I mean, it gets dark around here at night in general, but so far we haven't found him on any camera footage to prove where he's at.
Oh,
That statement's always bothered me.
yeah.
To prove where he's at.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, why do you have to prove where he's at to the authorities? Because the authorities are asking him. You know how it goes.
Correct.
They're saying, where is he?
That statement reminds me of, again, another example I use in my classes. There's a guy that was stabbed. He was with a couple friends in their apartment. They were doing a lot of dope and drinking and stuff, and a couple of them got in an argument, and one of them was stabbed. And in his statement, he survived, but he went to the hospital and he got a lot of stitches and staples and everything. But he skewed his story. Instead of, he's actually the one that started the fight. And in his story, he left all that out and just wanted me to believe that the guy just got up and stabbed him for no reason, just started beating on him and stabbed him for no reason. And the case was totally opposite of that. And in his story, he said, he just started beating me down with no regret, and just over and over and over. And he got a knife and he stabbed me. And I had the cuts to prove it and the staples to prove it in my neck. And I was like, why does my victim have to prove anything to me? He shouldn't have to prove anything to me. And it's because he was changing the narrative. He actually was stabbed, but he was deceptive in the way that he was portraying it, leaving out all of his own culpability. And so anytime I hear this from our alleged victim's family to prove where he was, I'm like, I'm just like you. I'm just like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, it catches us off guard. Like, why do you have to prove anything? Why does it have to be proof? And I wonder, did she hear something from the investigators regarding proof of life? Is he on camera? Is he on video somewhere? This proof of life. Did they ask her for pictures from her cell phone that she might have taken that day of him? Or, I don't know. There's all kinds of possibilities, but I wonder, is she parroting language that she heard from them? Because that would be proof of life, that he was alive earlier, that night, I guess earlier, she went to find him in the morning. He wasn't there. So you see where I'm going with this.
And it goes into your thought. It goes into your thought. I mean, first of all, there's not this is 8 days into the investigation. So there's not a whole lot of social media, trolls coming in and saying, you did it. You're the ones, we know you killed him, yada, yada. Now, there is some of that, I'm sure of it, like every case that ever happens. But that statement in of itself is not directed at, if it's directed at social media, it goes exactly to your point. They're more concerned with what they're thinking than they are about Sebastian. Okay. Most people will, in a scenario where there's no jeopardy, will say, I could care less what they think. I'm looking for my son. You know where you hear that? You hear it from the biological father.
Mm.
That's what the biological father is, the first one that says, I don't care what they say. Okay? I want to find my son, Sebastian. Okay? And, the fact that she says to prove, I think that's directed at law enforcement. And that was kind of a leakage.
Yeah.
I think LE put a little pressure on them saying, look, this isn't lining up. Do you have any video? And by the way, she works for Brinks. So she's a video expert. She installs cameras and that kind of stuff. So of course they're going to press her right up front going, hey, you do this for a living. Do you have any video? Do you have anything other than what you're saying? Is there something? And then, she chooses those words very succinctly. I'm going to go back and play it one more time.
Right on.
I know that it was very dark that night.
How does she know it's dark? She's in bed. He's in bed. She doesn't go check on him until 6 a.m.
Yeah.
I mean, it gets dark around here at night in general, but
it gets dark around here at night in general. Okay, it gets dark everywhere.
That's another reason when I heard that, I thought, oh, that's just another check mark that whatever happened occurred that night. And I would say that 10 o'clock hour again, that's going to be probably key. That's probably about the time.
The thump.
Again, 10 o'clock. I'm telling you, something happened at 10.
so far we haven't found him on any camera footage to prove where he's at or where he's gone.
So far, we haven't found him on any camera footage to prove where he's at, where he's gone. So it sounds like they're alleging there is camera footage that they reviewed.
Or, well, yeah, that's a good possibility. Yeah.
And again, that kind of goes back to the theory that he was put in the car in the garage and taken away. Some people think he never made it home. It sounds like there would never be any proof of him on any camera footage because he's been hidden and taken away in a secretive manner.
That's good. Or in their mind, they're thinking there's a possibility now that they've thought it, it's been 8 days and they've had time to think about this. In the back of their mind, they might be thinking, I wonder if there's camera footage down that particular street that we drove, or, whatever the case is. But certainly one of those is a really good possibility.
I know that they're looking, and I'm asking everybody and anybody.
I know that they're looking. So that means, again, it goes back to that, to prove. That's who she's talking about, the authorities.
Yep.
That has cameras, trail cams, stores.
So that's interesting. 8 days into this, the authorities are going, we're in, your first statement, because we don't know what the first statement is. They went to the news on this one.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be really curious to hear that first statement.
Would love to hear it.
To check, even from before he went missing, just to see if there's anything at all.
I understand there was a request for video, any sort of footage of Sebastian from earlier in the day on Sunday before he disappeared.
That I don't believe we can comment on right now. That is not something that I believe we're privy to at this point with law enforcement. That is something I would definitely direct back to them. But I mean, there's all kinds of requests out there. There's thousands of hours of video that they are combing, and we're just hoping they'll find something.
And I know this is so sensitive. What do you say to people?
And those thousands of hours can be narrowed down to about an hour with the technology that's available.
Technology, yeah.
Who inevitably end up pointing their finger back at you. We were talking earlier, and I mean, are you both in the clear?
I can tell you that Mom, myself, and the father have worked very fully and cooperatively with all.
He's not answering the question.
He skirted that question. We expect from both of them that at the same time to be given a absolute answer. Absolutely, that would be the word. Absolutely, we're in the clear. Yeah, yeah. We had nothing to do with this. Let's just get over this, and we've offered to take polygraphs to clear our names and get on with the investigation to find him and focus on whatever happened to him. But she didn't say a thing, and then all he can say is, "I can tell you we've cooperated." That's the only thing he can say about that. But that doesn't answer the question.
Well, and 2 months later, in the press release, or if you go to the TBI website, they say, and the sheriff just recently gave an interview, the chief deputy, we've not cleared anyone. So he's asking a question. He's asked that question, have you been cleared? And he gives an answer that says, well, we're cooperating. And then the sheriff 2 months later says, we haven't cleared anybody. But here he's projecting into the public that, hey, there's a possibility. The dad, me, the mom, we've been, we're kind of copacetic here. Let's go back. This is important for the audience to catch this, because this is 8 days. Okay. 8 days. They're having to, quote, prove to the authorities. And he's saying, hey, we're cooperating. And 2 months later, the sheriff comes out and says, we haven't cleared anybody. That's exactly like Don and Candace.
Yeah.
In the Summer Wells case.
Exactly.
The sheriff is.
And remember, Chris has also bounced around with the polygraph. Oh, I don't need to be polygraphed because of where I was that night. I was at work, so they didn't need to polygraph me. And then it was, yes, I passed. And then we find out that he never even took it. So once again, portraying a narrative of like, we're in the clear, when really that doesn't seem to be the case. Now, again, they're being cooperative. No signs of foul play, but also saying foul play is not off the table.
come out and said, no. But listen,
And I mean, are you both in the clear?
I can tell you that mom, myself, and the father have worked very fully and cooperatively with all agencies across the board. We have anything that they've wanted, we have provided. So cooperation is there. I mean,
You notice how he took himself out of that?
Yeah.
So cooperation is there. That's a passive statement, meaning he's not saying again that we're cooperating fully or whatever, but cooperation is there. That's in other words, let me just say these words and let you I'm gonna let you mold that into whatever you want to do with that, interpret it. And I always teach, if you interpret, you lose. Listen to what they say. He disconnected himself psychologically from that statement regarding cooperation.
Okay, hang on.
And I know this is so sensitive. What do you say to people who inevitably end up pointing their finger back at you? We were talking earlier, and I mean, are you both in the clear?
I can tell you that mom, myself, and the father have worked very fully and cooperatively with all agencies across the board. We have anything that they've wanted, we have provided. So cooperation is there. I mean,
What do you want to say to our viewers? Anybody who's watching, we've got a lot of folks in this.
He didn't answer the question.
Yeah, he skirted it.
He's completely, to your point, completely 100%. It's like, well, it's kind of blue, but it could be blue. It all depends
right.
on the sunlight coming through the window. You make the determination.
Right.
Instead of, this is, of course we're cooperating. Our son's missing. And of course, we will do anything. And the authorities have cleared us. Go ask them. They have verified what I said from day one. I'm not hearing any of that.
No.
And in other counties, just throughout the state as well. What do you want to say to them?
Help spread the word and keep searching, and thank you. And
by the way, the reporter teed that question up.
Yep.
Little Red, you're definitely not offending me. I've kind of had the same thoughts. I feel like Chris does all the talking because to keep Katie from making a mistake. Absolutely. Especially in, any interview really. That Duchess interview too. As soon as Duchess brought up the whole, okay, and you fell asleep and woke up on the couch around 10, then all of a sudden Chris butts in and he's like, well, I got to make it very crystal clear. We were on the phone from 9:43, 9:46-ish for 3 hours, and that's been verified by law enforcement, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, soon as this whole nap and 10 o'clock, the 10 p.m. realm starts talking, being out there, Chris had to chime in and take over the conversation. If you guys missed that, I played that interview in the beginning of the stream.
And she said to him, like we talked about, i.e. before they went on air. So they had time to process of how he was going to answer that question. And it was interesting that he took that answer.
Agreed.
just if you think you see him, call him in.
I think all the viewers, everybody's helped from across the board. I mean, everybody's been tremendous.
Call his name.
Yeah.
He'll answer, and if he doesn't answer, he'll look, even if he's not being verbal at the moment, because he can talk, but sometimes he don't talk. Call his name. Tell him to stay put.
He could be on the move, so keep checking their properties.
Yes, the search is never over until he comes home. That is for
He's so
sure.
smart.
But thank you for everything that everybody has done, has volunteered, the continuous efforts. I mean, it's like I said, I've never seen something to this magnitude before.
Our community is amazing.
We're all praying and hoping and searching for Sebastian's safe return for that day. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Let's not forget what this is about. Thoughts, Steve? Final thoughts?
I think what we did tonight was unveil a bunch of information that's in their mind, in their brains, that they probably didn't want anyone else to know. But we in essence just open those closed doors in their brain and let that information out. We exposed it. And I saw in one of the comments that they aren't even living in that same house anymore, that they're now in a different state. And Chris, to me, that's kind of if that's true, that's kind of a nail in the coffin. I mean, I shouldn't say nail in the coffin because there's a lot of possibilities here, but why in the world would you move from the house that your autistic son knows? And if he's going to come back, he would come back to that house. I mean, if that was my child, and I'm sure there's a million people out there would say the same thing. Like, I would never move until he came home. If there's a chance that he's coming home, and by the way, de facto innocent people, parents, they don't give up hope, and especially biological moms, especially they hold on even longer. But they're not going to move. They're not going to move. If there's a chance that he could come home, then they're not going to move. So
I've even seen some cases where the child goes missing, and it's been like 20 plus years, and the parents leave the child's room the exact same way. So the child is no longer a child, technically. If they were still alive, they're an adult, but the parents, they can't bring themselves to move out of that house or to even alter the room of the child who went missing. And yet here, we've even heard rumors that they're putting their house up for sale. Again, I say it's a rumor because I don't know if that's true, but they certainly left the house in the first few weeks of all this.
why do they move? And it tells me that in their mind, they know. It's like CP shrugging his shoulders, like, oh, it's over. Okay, we're on to the next phase in this whole thing. And they're going through the steps, the scripted steps, the motions. And that's kind of the final move, if you will, that we're gonna get out of here so that we don't have to suffer the persecution. We don't like it, whatever's going on, whatever the reason was. I'm not quite sure, but I would never move. I would be, like you said, bio dad is like, I don't care what everybody says. I'm here to find my son. Well, that's what I expect from these guys too. Is, hey, we're here, we're in it. No matter what, it doesn't matter what everybody's saying. Nothing can make me move here from this home. That Sebastian knows if there's a chance he's going to come walking through that door again. So, yeah, I don't like that.
I agree 1,000%. It's just not lining up, and I think we stay at the house. Would you agree? The victim risk continuum. That as investigators, I wouldn't leave that house yet.
Oh, for sure.
And
yeah.
So
I don't know the extent of this, the law enforcement investigation, how many times the parents have been interviewed or polygraphed or any of that, but definitely this is one of those situations again where based on this interview tonight that we went over, the focus has to be on number one, on mom, and number two, CPs, like whatever's going on, whatever the reason was.
Okay, let's make this photo front and center as we close up for the evening. So to conclude with everything, I mean, you guys heard the expert, right? Both experts, Chris and Steve, both have the experience that really, besides Duty Ron, no one has really spoke on this case on YouTube that has that level of experience when it comes to missing children, missing child cases. It's just very valuable information in this live stream. So I'm glad that we decided to do part 1 and part 2. And to conclude everything, I mean, Steve is very alarmed that they left the house. He's feeling like CP and KP, might know more, need to be looked into more. Something just doesn't sit right for either of them when it comes to some of their interviews. And thank you, Seth, for chiming in. And it's good to see you. And all of our prayers go out to you for sure. And we are trying our best to keep Sebastian's name out there and his face out there. Really trying to keep it about him and about the updates. Seth says, Chris is correct about that. The searching will never stop until Sebastian is brought home. Thank you all who are helping by bringing positive awareness to Sebastian's case. Hashtag Sebastian's Army. Yes, that is what we are about here. just reading some of your other comments, and chat is wishing you well. And he says, I was married to her for a long time. So, I mean, we don't want, we won't let it go cold. We, much like Summer Wells' case, she's always in our thoughts. She's always, at the forefront of our minds when we're speaking about missing children cases. And we don't want Sebastian to wind up, a year, 2 year, 3 years down the line, like we've seen in Summer's case, where we have absolutely no updates. I hope that you're able to get FBI to kind of take over. I don't know what it would take for that. I believe there is a petition going around for that. Seth, correct me if I'm wrong. But just let me know if there's anything that we can do besides, obviously we're going to keep his name and face out there, and hopefully TBI can give us more updates if possible. And again, all we can really do is just keep the flyers out there. We try to keep the drama to a minimum, but it's hard to avoid sometimes when CP is popping up on panels and all that, and saying the things that he's been saying. But yes, a lot of us, even from Scotland, are sending love and prayers to you. So we really hope that we can get some updates in this case. And I just wanted to thank everybody that joined the live stream. And for those who hit the like button doesn't just help the channel. It helps get the stories out there in the algorithm. So that just means even when this live stream ends, that, people can stumble upon this story and watch it and see Sebastian's face and hear about the story if they've never heard about it before, because you guys have liked the stream. So again, just want to thank everybody for being here, the moderators, the members, those who gifted the memberships, and just everyone who hit the like button. And Seth, thank you for stopping in so much. I don't know if we'll go live again this weekend. Obviously, if there's a break in the case, that would be amazing. And we would love to go live on it. Looking Beyond says, if the FBI got involved in the case, that means they would have to get involved in every other missing child's case, right? And there's a lot out there. And I think that even TBI has their hands full. But, okay, Canada is also sending thoughts and prayers to you, Seth. Yeah, I hope everybody has a good weekend. Prayers that Sebastian is found. And just thank you guys so much. Seth says, I also have questions that I need answered, and yet I started that petition. And yes, I started that petition. All right. Well, if I can get that link to the petition, I will certainly link it in the description box of this live stream. The next time we speak, guys, will probably be early next week. Usually I go live on Tuesday nights. Sometimes if, there's something to talk about, I'll go live Monday. But join me for another live stream on some of the cases we are following. I really want to cover Karen Reed trial. Hopefully we get any type of update in this case as well. We'll be covering it. Thank you, Kent. I appreciate you. Marlena says, Seth, Chris mentioned y'all had a meeting with the district attorney. Does that mean this is a criminal case? Curious if you're able to answer that question before we end the stream. Okay, Being Bio Girl, good luck. I saw you were saying some stuff in the chat. I wasn't reading everything, but hope everything goes well with your surgery, and we'll be here for when you come back. Prayer and love from Wisconsin as well for you, Seth. So the question was, Chris mentioned you guys spoke to the district attorney. Does that mean this is a criminal case? I'm curious that answer. I don't want to hop off the stream just yet. I'm still here, guys. Sorry, I'm just staring at the screen. We'll be talking about the Chris Watts case as well, as many of you guys wanted to know. It might not be a question, Marlena, that he can answer. And if that's the case, then just say no comment or whatever, Seth, if you're still here. So again, they've said no evidence of foul play, but foul play is not off the table. Okay, he says, good night, y'all. Be blessed and stay safe. That is interesting, though. If Chris did say that. Where did he say that, Marlena? Jacqueline says he's not pervy either. Oh my gosh. You have to have a little bit of humor with cases sometimes when you cover cases, and that statement was just too much. All right, guys. So we have to respect that that might not be a question that Seth can answer. But either way, thank you for being here. And the Web Sleuths interview. Probably preparing for it to be at some point, possibly. I wouldn't be surprised. Something just doesn't seem right about this. Yes, now y'all get out there and enjoy that weekend. Yes. Enjoy every day, right? The best we can. All right, guys. So I'll see you guys next week. Have a good weekend, and we'll talk very soon. So thank you guys so much for being here, and good night.